welcome to Wild Space, everyone. I'm Aaron. I am joined by my buddy Nate here, and today we are talking about the next set, Secrets of Power, but we are going to talk about it from the angle of the expanded universe. We're going to talk about what Legends characters we might see in this set. Last set, FFG did something that was awesome. I did not think they would, but they introduced Legends characters with Revan and Malik and Bastila and some of the others, and so that just opened the gateway. And they said in their announcement that they are looking to do this more. So I'm hoping that each set will see a couple characters, and so. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, Nate's from my play group here, local in BC. How did you get into Star Wars, Nate? What was your card game journey that led you here?
When I was in high school, I started to collect the Star Wars Decipher game
Hmm. Yeah,
way back when, and then
the best game.
it was good.
Yeah,
I never got to play it competitively at all. I did a bit more Star Trek at the time,
yeah,
but yeah. And then I joined you with L5R,
yeah,
and then just been playing card games ever since.
yeah. We bounced around to a couple of the FFG ones too. In the meantime, right, with Game of Thrones and New 5R and that sort of thing. So yeah, and yeah, I'm a huge fan of the EU expanded universe. I think for guys like you and me that are in our age group, the expanded universe kind of was Star Wars. Like we were born after the original movies had all come out, but in that kind of dead era between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, but there was so much in there, and I know the Timothy Zahn books were something my uncle gave me, the Heir to the Empire series that kind of launched. Like I liked the movies as a kid, but I didn't. That was kind of it. There was just the movies, and so once I learned that there was these novels and there was this whole other galaxy and the stories went so much deeper. That's what really got me hooked and turned me into a huge fan. So I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
you also have the Revan logo there as your Discord icon. How did you get into the EU?
Um, so I had trouble reading as a kid. So the therapist said, "Hey, maybe just get him to find something that you enjoy to really encourage the reading aspect of it." So I was reading a lot of hockey books as a kid, and then found Star Wars, and that was just I was done. This is my expanded universe,
Yeah.
and I just read everything I could find.
Do you remember what the first book you got a hold of was, or you can't remember?
It was probably the X-Wing series.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. At some point, I would love to do like a tier list or a top 10 EU stories or books or something like that. So we'll maybe have to get you back for that so we can dive deep into all that stuff. But for today, we're going to focus on the next set here for Star Wars Unlimited. And FFG in their announcement, they kind of talked about how this set was themed around these crafty and calculating schemers. So I pulled one quote from the article there. For this set, we step away from the battlefield and dive into a war of information and intrigue. And then with some of the previews, we were shown this spy token that can get created. Um, and then obviously the feature decks are both politicians with Padme and Palpatine, and then also some of the intelligence officers they previewed. Partagas was in the set as well. So I thought, you know what? Let's dive into the EU and see what kind of people we can find in these roles, these political roles, these spies, these information brokers, these people that are a little bit more crafty and less of the straight up warriors. Um, and see if they might be the ones to make an appearance in this set. So to start us off, we've got Tarsus Valorum. Nate, tell us a little bit about him and who he is.
He was the chancellor who rose to power, who became the chancellor after the end of the final Great Sith War. What was it called again? Yeah, basically the new Sith War. So like, so this is the rule. This is a war where Bane gets destroys this old Sith order so he can start his rule of two, and then he came to power soon after. And his his big contribution to the lore is he did a rebalancing of power in the Senate. So the Senate was like, because this sector has like 1 million planets, and this sector is a small little one. He kind of like standardized, okay, these sectors going to be 1,000 sectors to go to the Senate, but those sectors have mini senates for their regional space, just trying to give representation to everyone. That was his primary goal.
Yeah, and so the Senate that shows up in kind of the prequels would be kind of based on some of the stuff that he had done.
Yeah, in fact, that is the structure he implemented. And a fun fact is the Chancellor Valorum in the Phantom Menace is a descendant of Tarsus.
Right. Yeah. He's sort of the anti-Palpatine. I think he gave up, made it so his position had less power and the Senate had more power.
Yeah.
True believer in democracy.
Yeah,
So,
his whole goal was everyone gets equal voice. And how'd you do that in a galaxy-wide civilization?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, strong candidate there as someone who wielded a lot of political power and had a big impact on the government and the Senate. Next up, we have Tenel Ka Do. I don't know how to pronounce that. I should listen to more audiobooks, then I'd get more of these pronunciations.
So of course, which book depends on what version they go with sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, so she is a Happen princess who was a Force sensitive. So the Happen Empire is a cluster of stars that actually never were able to fend off the Empire. They never actually got conquered and integrated into the Empire. And so she is a descendant of becomes their queen, and but her mother was from Dathomir, and that's where the Force sensitivity comes into it, and she plays a big role in the Young Jedi series where she befriends the children of Leia and Han, and eventually comes to power one of the strongest empires the strongest government post Galactic Civil War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's kind of torn between protecting her kind of home territory, which is still independent, versus like helping her friends in the Republic as they're facing threats like the Empire, the Imperial Remnant, and outside threats and the Vong and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and in her story, there's a lot of intrigue where like even her grandmother thinks she thinks she's too weak, so she actually tries to get someone else to become the queen of the Happen government, and there's a whole intrigue there from the spy angle, and not just ruling. So she's just embroiled in a lot of stuff that's happening inside and outside of her own people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that she kind of first shows up in the Young Jedi Knight series. That was something that I wanted to mention and forgot. So for Valorum, if you want to hear more about him, he is mainly featured in the Darth Bane trilogy, the Rule of Two books, and then Tenel Ka first shows up in the Young Jedi Knights, but she is scattered throughout the entirety of the EU. Actually, she has a pretty huge role throughout the lifespan of the EU. All right, we're moving on to Borsk Fela. He is a Bothan politician. He is someone who, even though he is helping the rebellion a lot and the New Republic a lot, he's often kind of seen as a villain in a lot of the books. In that he is kind of against what Luke and Leia and Han and Akbar and Mon Mothma are up to. He's kind of like the internal opposition within the rebellion. Um, and so I mean he's not really a villain. I think ultimately he's trying to help. But that's kind of his character and how he's set up. He's kind of famous for bringing in the Bothan spies, um, and at the early stages of the rebellion, and he has this big rivalry with Akbar, because they kind of come in at the same time. Akbar brings in all the Calamari Star Cruisers, and the rebellion's like, "Whoa, this guy's awesome! Look at all the ships he's bringing us." And I think Phalef feels like a little underappreciated. Like, "Hey, I'm giving you information. I'm giving you important stuff too." And then
He fills that.
eventually,
Sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
He definitely fills that role of Han, Leia, Luke, very into this. How you see them, they're all about personal liberty, personal freedom. Pelia is about like trying to maintain this unity post Empire, post thing, like the society, the state, help building that. Where he's that storytelling element that
Yeah, yeah,
shows we got to build a government, not just be freedom fighters.
yeah. And I think
And that above sides.
because of that, that's part of the reason he doesn't get along well with the Jedi, if I remember correctly, either. Right? He doesn't like that they're off doing their own thing.
He does not.
Yeah, I think he kind of thinks that they should be under the heel of the New Republic government. So that's an interesting element too. Eventually, though, he does become the leader, the chief of state, and yeah, serves as leader. So yeah, a lot of influence there. He, I believe, is a character that came out of the Heir to the Empire trilogy originally. But he again is one who is scattered throughout. That's the cool thing about the continuity of the EU is that while there are little like side stories, a lot of it is like designed to be like consecutive, consecutive stories that build off each other. So even though, yeah, he shows up in the Heir to the Empire trilogy, he gets used by, all the authors and gets rolled into all the other storylines that unfold. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about Mara Jade just briefly because we know she has a ton of history in the EU. But anyhow, yeah, Nate, tell us about her.
And she's a perfect character to follow up off the last guy, because what character has woven itself through Star Wars like Mara Jade has?
Mm-hmm.
She starts off as she's taken early in her lifetime. She's trained as the Emperor's personal assassin, his spy. Vader is his strength, his might. Vader is the Emperor's strength and might. She is the Emperor's espionage, the assassin, his person who we need things to be done subtly. She's his go-to versus Vader, blunt hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And in the really cool part of her story is that when Vader throws the Emperor down the shaft, his last thing he does is he implants a suggestion in her mind saying, "Kill Luke Skywalker." So the next several books where you meet her, she's planning on trying to kill Luke Skywalker. And quite entertaining to see the story. And eventually she ends up killing a clone. And then she becomes an ally of Luke. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we can. It's almost, I should have said before we started, there's going to be like spoilers in here, but these are like 20-plus-year-old books. So if you haven't read them, there's going to be spoilers. But if you haven't read them, you should read them. There's some of them are so good.
And she's a character that just is everywhere in the story,
mm-hmm.
but not to a point where it's like, oh, Marjay's back again. She's so well used.
Hmm.
to tell a story of a character that was bad, now is good, or not just that, but making that journey
Hmm.
between good and bad.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, she's got a pretty cool arc. Um, and again, another character will probably, most of these are going to be characters that were born of the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire trilogy, because I think I mentioned this, but that was like really the trilogy that jump started the EU, and it went from there. But if you're interested in her like exploits as a spy and assassin, her, I think the comics, the Dark Horse comics run with her, Mara Jade, the Emperor's Hand, has a ton of that, and some of the other comics would be a good place to check out for that. All right, next up we have Winter.
So in the expanded universe, Winter grows up with Leia on Alderaan. She's like her best friend. They're essentially siblings. And when Leia goes to the Senate, Winter goes and becomes like a spy, an espionage expert who she has a photographic memory, like, and so she becomes instrumental for the rebellion as a spy, as someone who could just find things, easier patterns. And in the liberation of Coruscant, she's probably would never have happened if Winter wasn't there to get everything working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Her character is interesting because she plays this role in a war that, I don't know. She's not. I don't know why she's not a strong or brave character, but she's definitely one, like, yeah, not physically strong, but one that's, yeah, like you said, instrumental.
And again, she shows up in the books a lot because she is just this person that everyone can trust. She's impeachable. Like
Yeah,
people
that's
trust
true.
her. Um, like even in the books, Leia and Han have to hide their children, and Leia gives Winter her children to hide from them. Leia doesn't even know where they are.
Yeah, yeah,
So the amount of trust this character has earned. She's there at Akbar's deathbed. She is just essential in the
yeah,
background.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so she'll pop up in lots of stories. I think again, first kind of appeared in the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire, but yeah, she goes from there, and her role continues to grow. So we talked about some politicians. We've been talking about some spies. The last spy we're going to talk about is Na Manor. He is one of the Yuuzhan Vong. We touched on it when we talked about Tenel Ka, I think, but one of the main storylines in the EU is this invasion of the galaxy by this alien race, the Yuuzhan Vong, and he is kind of the catalyst of that, in that he is sent to the galaxy to kind of prepare the way, and so he is causing dissension and riots, and he starts this like cult religion to like destabilize planets, um, gets involved in the Imperial Remnant, that their ruling council, I guess it's not really a senate, um, and starts like sowing dissension among them, and making them backstab each other, and kind of eventually making that all fall apart, and just essentially causing chaos so that when the Vong come, the galaxy is kind of as weak as possible and ripe for the taking. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you have anything to add on him, Nate.
No, you covered it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's another character that has a big impact without being the main focus of stories, and it's a fantastic character because of that.
yeah, yeah. So he shows up. I can't remember what book he first shows up in.
It's the
It
first one.
it's before. I think it's before even the Vong invasion books really fully start, but maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember. But I know he shows up in some comics too, as he's kind of a lot of his interactions with the Imperial elite happen in the comics, so worth checking out too. All right, now we're on to kind of the other category of like information brokers, criminal syndicate people outside of the politics or the spies, but people that still, wield a lot of power behind the scenes. Prince Shizor is the leader of the Black Sun Syndicate, which I think I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure in the canon they've kind of replaced the idea of the Black Sun with like the Pikes in all the movies and all the shows and everything. So it's always the Pikes that people are fighting. But in the EU, the Black Sun was like the big, the big bad of the criminal underworld.
And the Black Sun was always more organized than the Pikes.
Yeah, yeah. So his character is interesting. He's a Falleen, which is like a rare species. Their like homeworld got eradicated, and it was, I think, either in part or in whole due to something that Vader does. I think he was like testing biological weapons or something like that. And so he hates Vader, but he's like kind of buddy buddy with the Empire and with Palpatine. So there's this interesting dynamic where they're kind of these rivals, and he's trying to cause Vader's downfall, all while operating this massive criminal syndicate. So yeah, very cool character. Shadows of the Empire, the video game and novel is kind of where he makes his big appearance. I don't know if he's in a lot beyond that. Maybe some of the comics.
I think he's in comics.
Yeah, he's in some of the comics. Yeah. So yeah, that is Shizor. Next we got Talon Card. He was another Heir of the Empire, Timothy Zahn character, and he is the like information broker, go between, smuggler, kind of just general. He's like if Han Solo decided to become a career smuggler instead of joining the rebellion, I think is like kind of a way to describe him. Maybe he's not as reckless as Han. He's a little more organized and a little more focused. But eventually, Mara Jade ends up working for him. We mentioned her already. After the fall of the Emperor, and he kind of makes this play to stay neutral between the rebellion and the Empire. So he's working for Thrawn, who was obviously Zahn's best, contribution to the EU. One that they was so good they had to bring him into the canon. And then he's also kind of, selling information to the rebellion and that sort of thing. Later in the storyline, he kind of helps the rebellion more, and obviously in some of the stuff he kind of picks a side eventually and decides that the Empire's on its way down. He's gonna kind of, if he has to choose between the two, choose for rebellion. But he is an independent agent, and his information always comes at a price. All right, next we've got Ysanne Isard, Iceheart.
So this character, she is at a young age, she gets involved in Imperial intelligence. Her father was the head of Imperial intelligence, and on a mission that goes wrong. So to avoid herself getting in trouble, she blames it on her father, who gets executed by Palpatine. So she ends up taking his place. So that's the kind of character we got going here. She becomes she's like fanatical towards the emperor, right? Like
Yeah.
she's like she's out the 12th,
Yeah.
and like the emperor actually ends up giving her a super star destroyer that he hides underneath the on Coruscant, and this super star destroyer that's been buried becomes the prison called Lusancia, and it's a prison so feared that if you're even suspected have been to Lusancia, no one will ever trust you again, because people who go to Lusancia will betray you, just
Yeah.
betray you, like, and then you never know it's coming. So she's like makes double agents, and people are like, she's terrifying.
Yeah, it's more than just a prison. She kind of sets it up as to to build people into sleeper agents, like to torture them and break them down until they don't even know that they're a sleeper agent, kind of thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and like so Winter, her husband was a prisoner at Lusanica one time, and he is not trusted for so long
Yeah,
because he happened to have escaped from there when he escaped after being there for one time.
yeah,
It's and then she goes, and when she has to during the after the Coruscant gets conquered, she flees and she tries to take over basically the medical industry.
yeah,
She takes over a planet that makes all the Bacta, so the fluid that is floating in, and Empire Strikes Back.
yeah,
And she's just a constant thorn in everyone's side.
yeah, yeah. Super ruthless. Um, she even like totally tries to destroy Coruscant completely with a virus when she realizes the rebellion's going to take control of it. And yeah,
Yeah, it only
she's
targets aliens.
yes, that's right, that's right. And then that's one of the ways that she uses to like sow division in the rebellion, because the humans are all fine, but all these aliens get affected and start dying off. That's right. Yeah.
I
So yeah,
forgot about that.
cool character. And yeah, I think her main stories are in the X-wing books, the X-wing series, which is really good. So worth taking a look at. All right, our last character here is a very small character, but he's just so cool that I wanted to include him. Kudar Mubat is a character that shows up in the Bounty Hunter trilogy. I think it's the Hard Merchandise trilogy, or maybe Hard Merchandise is the first book in the trilogy, but it kind of focuses on Boba Fett. But anyway, he is this creature called an assembler, which is kind of like this gigantic space spider, and they live in these webs that float through space. And he is just like the galaxy's greatest middleman. Like he you know gets information from all these sources. He stores them in this web of like living nodes. It's almost like a living computer that he has access to, and all these little spider underlings running around inside his web. And then he's the one who's always brokering deals between you know these criminal organizations. They kind of go to his web, and they make a deal with him, and he makes a deal with the other party, or he sells you information, or all this kind of stuff. So just a very cool character idea. And yeah, doesn't have a big role in the galaxy. I'm pretty sure it's just those 3 novels that he's in. um, but worth mentioning because I just like his character a lot. He's very like sarcastic, and he'll talk down to you, but you can't really do anything about it because he's the broker, he's the middleman. So yeah, that's cool. All right, and then I know the one category of people that we kind of left out was like military, people. So Nate, I think you had a list of a couple other that were like the other considerations that you just wanted to kind of list off.
First person that came to my mind when you asked me about this was Admiral Dala,
Yeah.
and so like a character is who's an Imperial admiral, but ends up becoming the Supreme Chancellor of the New Republic at one point, which is a fascinating story.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
and
not that
then
she took it over; she just did it the right way.
yeah, 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 and then yeah, we talked about Card as an information broker. Booster Turek was like another character in that vein. Um, some of the other military people that you brought up.
Kraken, he is a card, but in the novels, he's way expanded as the spy master for the Republic.
Yeah, 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 and then characters like Jag Fell and Peleon and stuff like that. So yeah, who knows? Some of those, you know, leaders, but not necessarily fighters, but military leaders. They could show up in the set too. So um, to wrap it up, if you had to pick one character that you would either want to see as a card most, or you think is most likely to show up as a card, who would you pick, Nate?
Would want Iceheart.
Yeah,
Iceheart.
yeah,
She'd be my pick I want to see. Even though Mara Jane would be awesome, it's just Iceheart's a cool character.
yeah,
And but she was a spy focused thing. She can just have a lot of fun with it, I hope.
yeah. And they do have some of the Imperial intelligence people coming in with the guy from Andor, Partagas, that was previewed. So you know, her being in Imperial intelligence, that's a good connection. So yeah, it could be right there. Um, I think if I had to pick one that would be most likely, I mean, I don't know if they would touch Mara. She's got such a complicated story in the EU. I feel like
Well,
they
not in a
would.
spy themed way, probably not.
Yeah, I feel like they want ones that are more easy to integrate. So I'm gonna say uh, I'm gonna say Talon Card. I think they he's like a information broker, one of those guys who is behind the scenes. I'm gonna guess that he shows up somehow.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. All right. If you had other people that you thought should be on the list, let us know in the comments, or who you think is most likely to show up. Yeah, just comment below for those characters that we might have left out. Thanks, Nate, for doing this, and we will see everyone next time.